So here we have that looks like
Paper.
paper money.
Yes, paper money.
Yeah. I remember seeing old British pound notes that were big pieces of paper that folded down and you put it. So the concept of having big paper money was, I think, the original. Um, there, the Chinese had started making paper money in the Song Dynasty, I think, and when Kublai was ruling China as the Yuan Dynasty, they decided to produce paper money, and it was copied in Ilkhan, Iran as well. So they had paper money there too. The problem with paper money was inflation, and when the economy became a bit rocky, things went bad. So it was an experiment that almost worked. Some people would say our current paper money is not working much better. I think that's an exaggeration. The concept of stable currency is really quite difficult to maintain. So when people were using gold and silver, they would always debase the silver or the gold with other metals. The government would, because the government was producing the coinage. And paper money, well, the government only has to say, well, we're not going to redeem this at its face value, and that causes chaos. And that happened. But it's important. It's printing. This is block printing, like it's not movable type. The Chinese in the 1100s developed movable type, but it wasn't that practical for Chinese. It was much easier to get someone to write the page out on paper, reverse it, glue it to a wooden block, and then carve it out, and then print the whole page. It's much more like lithography in the West. For mass-producing documents, and obviously in mass-produced paper money. In Korea, movable type was more popular because when the Koreans were using Chinese to write Korean, they didn't use the full gamut of characters. They had a subset of characters they used to sound out Korean. And they also wrote in Chinese as well. But if you were printing, that subset was much more practical. So that the Koreans developed quite successful movable metal type where they cast the individual characters they were using to transliterate Korean in metal and then assembled them the same way as modern printing did. The concept may have been translated to Europe, and you then have Gutenberg and movable type printing in the West. It's reasonable to think so because movable type printing was really well known in East Asia, even though it wasn't the main way of printing, but it was certainly well known. And one of the things the Mongols did was transfer ideas. They were really good at it. There are things that you might think were totally crazy. The Chinese invented trebuchet catapults. So the long arm with the short arm and the sling, back in the 4th or 5th century BCE. But they were all man-powered. So they'd have lots of ropes and everybody would grab a rope and someone would say, pull, and they'd all pull together and throw a rock. That was the limitation. So that idea got to the West. And in Iran and Syria and places like that, people got to the idea, well, why not just put a weight on the end of the trebuchet arm? And then you wouldn't need all those guys. You could just use a winch to wind it down. And so they invented the counterweight trebuchet. When the Mongols invaded Iran, they found these guys making these counterweight trebuchets and said, wow, what a great idea. And they took them back to China. And the Chinese said, you've got Chinese encyclopedias, military encyclopedias, and they say, oh yeah, and then these Westerners modified trebuchets, and they work much better. And then they went on to make counterweights that could be moved up or moved down. It was all kind of very sophisticated. But this is just one thing where ideas went from east to west, and then back from west to east. It's like the Chinese invented cannon, And the Mongols brought cannon with them to the west, and the Europeans spent a couple of 100 years developing cannon and took better cannon back to China.
Yes.
It's, there's a very big transfer of ideas and science. So here we have some mirrors. We have a little, is that a folding handled incense thing on the top left?
Yes.
Mirrors along the bottom. We've got spoons and what appears to be a knife.
Yes.
The figure on the top right, is that meant to be a domestic god?
Let me just see if I have. Yeah. Oh God, the inscriptions are too small to read.
Yeah. Human figure. No, that's not helpful. Description. Yeah. So we've got belt hooks and all kinds of things in the foreground. Arrowheads, looks like.
Buckles, belt hooks, yes.
The quality of the metalwork. So, they've got bells in the middle there, so everybody likes a bell.
Yes.
The famous painting of Kublai hunting with his wife, I think the breast strap of her horse is decorated with little bells.
Yes.
There was a kind of very common idea. Bells were really quite useful. Some of the items on the left lower side look like things for cleaning your nails and stuff like that. Ear spoon, maybe.
Yeah.
In Mongolia in the 19th and early 20th century, it was common to carry a manicure set, which comprised of hanging from little silver chains, a pair of tweezers for pulling hair out, like a little spear-shaped object for cleaning your fingernails, and a little spoon-shaped object for cleaning your ears, cleaning wax out of your ears. It's quite funny because in East Asia, a lot of people don't produce wax in their ears. It's much more a Western thing, genetically. So it's interesting that they had these very elaborate ways of cleaning their ears out. But I've got some like little silver ones that were meant to hook onto the button of your dell. Men and women carried them, but women had the more decorative ones. This is Ergode Khan. It says Yuan Totes. I think that's Totsung. Looks like Ergode. Notice the square collar robe and the very interesting hat. Again, notice the moustaches do not droop down, they curve up.
Yeah.
And his beard is long enough that he's tucked it back out of the way and possibly into his hatband.
Very nice.
There's a series of portraits of the Khans. The most likely person that influenced the style was a Nepalese painter, Anaga, something like that. And you can see that they're stylized, but they are individual. And obviously some of these are painted 100 years after the death of the person involved, but there may have been other drawings and paintings that they were based on, and they cleaned them up and made them look a little bit more stylish.
Yes.
But the Chinese characters are just his name and his rank. This is a bokhta, which is a hat that married women wore on top of their head. Looks like an upside down boot. It was covered in silk and pearls and jewelry and gold, if you were rich enough. But it's a characteristic of married women. So if you were a young Mongol woman who wasn't married, your clothes and everything would look pretty much like a man's, maybe a little bit more embroidery around the cuffs and the hems and that. But particularly European and Middle Eastern observers noted that there was very little difference between male and female clothing. Once you got married, you got the hat, the boktak. Your robes were made much wider. You didn't wear belts. So, and possibly it was functional to make breastfeeding more easily done. The surviving robes that actually match the paintings. In fact, there's a very good article on them that's available in English and can be downloaded online. but it's really interesting. There's this big difference between married women and single women. And in the 19th century in Mongolia, again, there was this big difference between what married women wore and what single women wore.
Yeah.
And single women actually were working in the workforce in the sense of going out herding and whatever, right back to the time of Genghis Khan. So it's important that the kind of behaviour towards women among the Mongols and the earlier Turks too, before they moved west, was much. It wasn't egalitarian. Women were still second-class citizens, as they were in most of the world at the time, but they had many more rights and much more flexibility in their lifestyles than they did in settled societies.
Yes,
because settled societies generally women were much more restricted.
Yes,
possibly because it was easier.
Yes. So this is birch bark and textile. They write it.
Yeah. So they made a frame out of birch bark. There may be little sticks and things woven into it, and then it was covered in textile, and then adorned with, if you were rich enough, pearls and all kinds of things. There are paintings of the wives of the Yuan emperors, and even I think maybe there's a painting of Genghis's mother, Foylan, and this style of headgear is sometimes a very famous quote by I think it's Ibn Battuta when he went into the Golden Horde. They like putting peacock feathers on top of these. So imagine you've got a hat that's that tall, and then you put peacock feathers on top of it. And he said a group of riders came over the horizon on the steppe, and he said they looked like they were carrying spears, but when they got up close, they were all women, and they had these enormous, tall headdresses. And he was very impressed.
Yes.
So, yeah, the very important things. And we've got some very nice looking stuff there.
Let me see if I have. Oh, no, I don't.
That was, yeah.
So this is this one, right? Look.
So this is what they looked like when they were fully adorned.
Yeah.
That kind of band around the forehead and around the back of the head. Then you've got this. Maybe their hair is pulled up inside it. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. But notice it's decorated with pearls. Having ornaments that hang either side of the face was still being done in Mongolia until the late 19th century.
Yeah.
And Mongolians like jewelry. There was native traditions of making jewelry, but they also had itinerant Chinese silversmiths and whatever that would go around between the encampments. Mongolians in the imperial period thought that the chubbier a woman was, clearly she came from a rich family, so therefore she was more important. So it wasn't like the kind of ultra-thin models today. It was, if you were a bit chubby, you were considered to be very attractive.
Yeah, tastes change, of course.
Tastes have changed, but the reasons, the fact that when food was scarce, being solid was a sign that you were rich enough to get enough food, whereas in modern times, when food is abundant, being slender means that you have the time to do the exercise and everything necessary to keep you in good.
To get rid of all this junk food the food industry feeds us with, right? Of course.
Yeah. So therefore, being thin in modern times shows that you have the ability to discern between junk food and healthy food, which is enough. You can't really complain with it. They don't look particularly happy, but they're not supposed to, because they're supposed to look very serious.
Yes.
Because these are empresses. I mean, this is Kublai, Genghis's grandson, and the brother of Hulagu Khan, who was the Ilkhan of Iran. He's wearing a typical Mongol hat of the period. Quite a few of these survive in tombs, so we know that the paintings are relatively accurate. You don't get a full idea of how they're put together from the paintings. When you see them, the excavator ones, it makes more sense. You notice you can see little plaits of hair behind his ears. Yeah. So what the Mongols did, their hairstyle, it's not as apparent with him, but what they did was they shaved across their head that way and then the other way to make like an X. And the front part of the hair, they combed down, and the side bits they grew really long and plaited, and then looped the plaits up and tied them up behind their ears. And this style, this hairstyle, lasted for several hundred years. Pardon me. Again, mustache curving up, not going down. I just want to remind people, because this is such a trope in Western art.
Yes.
This is another. Oh, what is that?
Let me see if I have any. Oh no, I don't. Okay.
So we've got a beautiful bowl of some sort. Looks almost like a spittoon, but maybe not. We've got a book, which is. It looks like it's written in Mongol script, modern Mongol script. Actually, that thing it's a ewer for pouring, maybe for religious ceremonies, or maybe just pouring alcohol, because Mongols really did like alcohol a lot.
Yes.
A mirror. We've got that cloth, circular cloth at the back, that may be for wrapping something. The Mongols generally did not produce cloth locally. All cloth was imported. I'm not talking about felt. They made felt locally. But they were the Mongol women were really good seamstresses. They were very good at assembling robes and sewing things, and very high quality sewing. So they had basically outsourced textile production, but concentrated on assembly and design. And that went on well into the early 20th century. The Turks, on the other hand, produced the textiles as well. They had similar aesthetics though. So we have a series of things here. These are old. The red bowl in the front looks Han Dynasty, or maybe even earlier. The various metal pieces are parts of belts on the lower left-hand side. A couple of mirrors. We've got censers. That mountain-shaped censer is Han Dynasty design. So you put incense inside it, and smoke came out of the holes. And the conical shape was meant to represent a mountain, and then the smoke would be mist coming around the mountain. There's a whole series of various bowls and ewers and whatever for pouring or storing liquids.
We had that already? And this
we've had that one. Been part of a saddle. You see, these are all really old.
Yeah.
Pre-Mongol. Some of the excavated bronzeware is of exceptional quality. The two bucket-shaped ones could be Mongol period, though I don't think so. The red with the gilding, that's lacquer. Red lacquer on the inside, black lacquer on the outside, and gilded lacquer on. It's called an ear cup. It's for drinking like that. Some Chinese teams, particularly in the southern areas where the ground was waterlogged, they've taken out hundreds of these stacked in little stacks because they all fit in together like Lego blocks, and they often have labels on them, from the tomb of such and such, because the Chinese really did like documenting things. But yeah, these could be early things from Inner Mongolia, because the Han Empire expanded into parts of Mongolia. The Mongols, they weren't Mongols at the time; they were Xiongnu. The Xiongnu imported a lot of Chinese. When I say imported, they extracted a lot of Chinese precious materials, because the Xiongnu Empire acted as a kind of armed mafia who ran a protection racket on the Chinese empire. We have here on the left what's in Chinese called paozi, which is a metal identification. it's got Uyghur script running down both sides, and it probably says, "Through the power and might of the great Khan, you must obey or die." That was so. You'd have this a cord would go through the center. You'd attach it to your belt, and the Khan would send you somewhere, and you would present this to um, the Yam stations. This is where you exchanged horses, and that was your authority, and they would give you fresh horses to go to the next one. And when you appeared in front of one of the local rulers, this would say, "You've got to listen to this guy. He's come straight from the Khan." It's like a combination of identity, device, and passport. You would never mess around with somebody carrying one of these. Here we have some scribes. This is from the Rashid ad-Din Jamia Tabarik collection of histories. These are meant the people in the robes that open down the front center are meant to be Arabs or Persians. The people that have robes that fold across are meant to be Mongols. But having said that, they use the same clothing in historical accounts, so it might be Muhammad of Ghazni, but he's wearing Mongol clothes. So they're not. They're very good examples of what the clothes look like, but then you can't rely on anything else. So here we've got tomb figurines of warriors and armored horses, or an armored horse. We've got a deer in the foreground. Deer were really common decorative motifs in the Mongol imperial period, and were very popular going back to the Scythians and the Saka. There's a bit of gilded work there too. A ewer with the handle fallen off. Mostly the figurines are tomb figurines. More likely, this is pre-Mongol, because the things at the back say first Turk Kaganates, so there were the two Göktürk empires, one after the other. And you've got the Khitan, who were a cousin language to Mongolian. It wasn't Mongolian, but it was more closely related to Mongolian than other things. And they were kicked out of North China by the Jin, who were Jurchen, who were related to the later Manchus. And some of them moved west and conquered Samarkand and places like that, and set up essentially a Buddhist empire in the middle of a very strictly Islamic area. Clearly they weren't very popular, but they weren't as bad as some people. So they were called Kara Kitai, which means black Khitan. Black wasn't a bad color. So here we have, again, scholars, I think, judging by their clothing. The robe they're wearing is something like what in Arabic is called a thob. It's like a big shirt with an opening for your head and sleeves. Very common in the Middle East. There's an attempt to show brickwork and things like that, but there's lots of strong designs. You've got a couple of blue vases up on the roof, I think. So these people may be waiting outside a palace door to be admitted in to meet somebody important. But bearing in mind, this particularly the Jami is a collection of histories, and the illustrations are all contemporary clothes, but the things that are being illustrated can be from hundreds of years before. Yes. Here we have one of those beautiful mirrors.
Yeah. Really nice.
The Mongols had a real liking for flowers and leaf designs on things. I mean, they quite liked figurative stuff, and deer and things like that are common. But, very well executed flower and leaf designs are often found on highly valuable objects.
Yes.
What have we here?
Yeah, this is We have it
I
from
can
the other
see.
side, maybe. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here we have them. Here we
Oh,
have.
yeah.
Look
Well,
at. Yeah.
so the pizza on the left, I've actually got one, a replica from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That's the script is Pagspa, and which is a phonetic script that a Tibetan monk developed for writing Mongol, Chinese, and other things like that. It lasted for about 50 years or so, and was usually only used in official documents. The round pizza are the later ones, and more likely to be made in China, whereas the oval ones are more likely to come from the West, like the Golden Horde or Iran. You notice again the script on the oval one is what they call Imperial Mongol, Imperial Uyghur script. It's the ancestor of the modern Mongolian script. It's not that hard to read, and the kind of like there's tigers and lions. These pizza came in ranks, so you had gold ones, silver ones, and bronze ones. Obviously, if you've got a gold one, you're really important. You've got a silver one, you're pretty important. You've got a bronze one, you're probably just an official. But they were coated by the metal that they were made out of. And you notice both of them are designed to be hung from the belt.
Yes. Oh, so we talked about it already?
Yes. Yeah, we looked at these.
Oh, this one.
This is interesting. So the cross-shaped metal decorations down the bottom are almost certainly from horse harness. Yeah. There's quite a lot of things that I don't quite recognise. Something that looks like a crescent-shaped axe head, which is a bit odd because the Mongols. I can see bits of bows on the left. Yep. These are, but not Mongol period. These are like Khitan or earlier, maybe Turkic. Arrowheads in the middle on the left.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Yeah, the metalwork in all the periods in this area, were of very high quality. I mean, in the Golden Horde, they keep digging up things. In Iran, they found the complete gold covering of a saddle from the Ilkhanate period.
Yes,
and the whole of it was embossed and beautifully decorated. Yes. They were rich when they conquered a large part of the world. They collected all the money together and spent it on themselves, as people do when they conquer large areas. Yes. They were weirdly, for people that started off living on the steppe in a very harsh climate, once they conquered places, they were very supportive of the arts. Yes. And in Iran, particularly, they commissioned a lot of copies of the Shahnameh. Yes, very high quality. Yes. And of course, once they converted to Islam, they started building mosques and madrasas. Yes. And again, they were innovative. The Tomb of Al-Jaitu in Iran is a very innovative dome shape. The decoration was brilliant. So they destroyed a lot of cities and killed a lot of people. But long term, they probably weren't as bad as some of the people that were fighting. It's just, would the other guy have killed a lot of people too if he was as efficient? Yes, probably, but he wasn't, so he didn't. It's very difficult to judge people by modern standards when you try and do this.
Thank you very much, Bede, and it was lovely having you here today on our channel.
Yeah, that was really interesting stuff. We just don't get a chance to see this very often. Yes. So it's great when we do.
Thank you very much, Bede. Have a nice day.
You too.